What's going on, guys? This is Carter Karels, Texas A&M beat writer for GigEm 247, here at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium after Texas A&M just lost to number 10 Ole Miss, 38-35. I've got a lot of thoughts on this game, but before I kind of break down the game, there's one thing I keep coming back to. A&M lost their fourth game of the season. They're now 5-4 on the season. And this is the fifth time in 6 seasons now that A&M under Jimbo Fisher has lost at least 4 games in a season. The only exception being obviously that 2020 season. And once you get to year 6, once you get to the 5th time of that happening, what's your excuse? I mean, you could tell me, hey man, quarterback's hurt and this and that. We were this close. We had this many one-score losses. Once it gets to year 6, once it becomes the 5th time it's happened, there aren't any excuses anymore, especially when you're paying your head coach the amount that A&M is paying their head coach. To me, it gets to a point where you say, how many times does this have to happen before you realize that it's just going to keep happening? Here we are, 5th time in 6 seasons. What evidence is there to suggest that A&M will eventually, turn it around? They just reinvent new ways to lose 4+ games every season. They reinvent new ways to lose on the road. 9th straight road loss for Texas A&M. This is yet another loss on the road against a ranked opponent. Jimbo Fisher has not beaten a ranked opponent on the road since 2016. 2016, I wasn't even legal drinking age in 2016. Like, that was almost 2 presidents ago, 2016. That's the last time he's beaten a ranked opponent on the road. How many times does it have to happen before you realize that it's just going to keep happening? I before this game, I predicted Ole Miss 30, Texas A&M 27. It was about what I expected. But until this team wins on the road, until this team wins a big game on the road, I'm not going to pick them. LSU, Baton Rouge, no chance they're winning that game. How many times does it have to happen before you just kind of accept your fate, or at least accept that this is the status quo until something changes? That's kind of where I'm at with this game. Now, getting into the game, I think there were some encouraging things with A&M, but obviously a lot of discouraging things as well. It kind of flipped. Going into this game, you're feeling really great about your defense, feeling really bad about your offense. Well, after this game, feeling a lot more encouraged about the offense and not feeling as great about the defense. Well, I'm going to try to avoid some sprinklers, by the way. It's quite wet, so will be interesting to see if I get rained on here in a second. But let's start off with the beginning of the game. It actually was not encouraging offensively for A&M. It took them a little bit to get going. They had a huge 19-yard catch from Ja'Day Walker to start the game, and then there really wasn't anything first 4 drives for A&M that they did. They had the big drop from Noah Thomas, I believe on a 3rd down. They couldn't get the running game growing. And then, they had a couple pre-snap penalties. They had a couple instances where they either couldn't get lined up or they couldn't get the play off in time, and they had to waste a couple timeouts, which ended up being critical at the end of the game. But yeah, those first 4 drives were rough. It was kind of the same old deal with this A&M offense. And then all of a sudden it clicked. And really, I think that the game-changing, difference-making moment for this team was that Shamar Turner blocked field goal. Because up until that point, A&M, I tweeted at one point, like, this could get ugly. It was 14-0 for Ole Miss. And they were driving all the way down the field. And it looked like, at one point they ran it in for a touchdown, called it back because of a holding. And it ended up being... ended up moving them back, and I think they had a 1st and 30 at one point, so they're kind of just gaining as many yards as they can until they can line up for a field goal. And then Shamar Turner blocks it. Jacoby Matthews returns it all the way back, and all of a sudden you got a 14-0 game. You thought it was 21-0 at one point, and now all of a sudden it's 14-7. And, you know, Ole Miss ends up driving right down the field and scoring a touchdown. A&M's defense was pretty gassed, having to come back on the field again. But then that last play of the first half, you felt super encouraged, because all of a sudden A&M's moving the ball. You're getting guys going. You got Ja'Day Walker, you know, making a lot of big catches, and they end up scoring a touchdown. You get a stop at the end of the first half. You get the ball back to start the second half. And you're looking at this game, all of a sudden it's 20-14, and it's like, wait, it's 20-14? What in the world? It literally looked like it was going to be a 27-7 kind of first half, or, you know, it looked like at one point it could have been like 31-0. Like it was just so lopsided the first quarter and a half, that you thought this could potentially be a blowout. So, you know, kudos to Shamar Turner on that blocked field goal. It looked like the guy was kind of trying to cut block him or something, and just totally whiffed on it, went right by him, and got a piece on it. So that was a huge play, and also a great job by Jacoby Matthews taking it back. Well, then you start off the second half, and you saw Max Johnson really start to settle in. You saw him start to just look confident, making all the right throws, and Ja'Day Walker is really the biggest guy that stood out to me. I know Anaya Smith had 6 catches, 83 yards. He had the huge 24-yard catch there toward the end in the fourth quarter. But Ja'Day Walker stepping up, 8 catches, 100 yards, his second 100-yard game for the Aggies. And they needed him bad, because they came in this game. Evan Stewart, Jimbo Fisher told us after the game, suffered a thigh bruise in practice, or no, not in practice, in the South Carolina game. And then on Tuesday, they realized, oh man, he's not going to be able to play. And so Ja'Day Walker, you know, he's had a couple bad moments, like the Arkansas game had some drops, but he really stepped up and delivered today. And he put him in a position to tie the game there at the end. And almost all of A&M's production came in the second half, and a lot of it was because of Max Johnson and Ja'Day Walker. The offensive line looked pretty good in the second half. Yeah, Max Johnson got beat up a little bit, but hey, they protected enough, and they're out physicaling, if that's a word, out physicaling Ole Miss, to where Le'Veon Moss and Amari Daniels were starting to find some holes in the running game, breaking off 7-yard runs, 10-yard runs, and really starting to kind of help Max Johnson have these third and manageables. One of the biggest problems for this team has been getting these third and longs and asking Max Johnson to do a little too much. So he started to get supported in ways that we hadn't seen. Defensively, let's talk about them real quick. I mean, you're down 3 secondary players now. Jardine Gilbert, safety. I mean, I always thought that Jacoby Matthews was a better player, but, you know, he went down with an injury earlier this season, needed surgery on it. And today we learned Tyreek Chappelle got banged up, couldn't play. Deuce Harmon, same thing, couldn't play. And so A&M put out their Florida State transfer Sam McCall and a true freshman in Javon Thomas. And McCall is almost a true freshman when you think about it's his sophomore year. He didn't really do that much at Florida State last year. He was more of a special teams guy as a true freshman. Ended up transferring to A&M. So it's almost like you had 2 true freshmen out there, and it really was noticeable. Now, Ole Miss has some really dang good receivers, and Jackson Dart is no slouch for sure, but man, play after play. I think they may have had 10 completions of 20-plus yards. Now, Trey Harris made some catches that's like, hey, a lot of good corners he'd be making that play against, because he just made a really, really dang good play. But there were a lot of plays where guys were wide open. You had the play right around here. Watkins lines up and no one even notices him, and he easily scores about a 20-25 yard touchdown. I think that might have been in the third quarter. And so the problem with this A&M defense is when they're playing a great offense, they're really good at shutting down one thing, but they can't shut down two things. And you saw it today where, okay, we're gonna stop the pass. We're gonna do a 3-3-5 look. We might have a couple deep safeties, a few deep safeties, and they're just gonna run on you with Quinshon Judkins. Okay, well now, we're gonna send pressure, or we're gonna have 4 down linemen. Okay, well now we're just gonna throw it all over you. So like, it's kind of pick your poison. And today, Ole Miss, no matter what look they saw, they were able to exploit. And I think it's just a testament to, Ole Miss has a great offense. They can run the ball well, they can throw the ball well, but A&M's defense has been a little fool's gold so far this season. We've seen them really dominate. We've seen them put up insane numbers. I had a story on it earlier this week, kind of looking through just how historic their performance has been. But it's been against really bad teams. And every really good team they played has kind of exposed them. Miami, great passing team, went nuts on them. Alabama, you may not think it, but they do measure pretty well through the air. Went nuts on them with Jermaine Burton, getting 190 yards or so. And then running the ball, Tennessee was able to run all over them in Knoxville. And now Ole Miss, they had a 100-yard rusher with Quinshon Judkins. Jackson Dart had a career game. And Trey Harris, I always say it, he had a game that he'll tell his grandchildren about. I think it was 11 catches, 210 yards, and a touchdown. And he made some one-handed grabs. He made some just crazy plays today. And yeah, it was noticeable, the drop off at corner. I still think A&M, if they had their corners, would have gotten toasted a little bit. This just isn't a great secondary. And this defense, a little fool's goalie. Now, they're still good. They're good, but are they elite? Are they one of the best in college football? I don't think so. Overall, a couple more things. The kick at the end, they put Randy Bond in a good position. 47-yarder. He hadn't been amazing from 40 and deeper this season. But you're a college kicker. 47 yards shouldn't be, too bad. It's hard for me to get a great look on it. It kind of looked like the guy came off the edge, DeAndre Prince, I want to say, and he looked kind of unblocked. It looked like Max Wright was in charge of blocking 2 guys, and he just went right around him, and Max Wright could only really get a hand on him, and then he was able to tip it. I saw someone on our board say that no, it was someone on the interior who ended up tipping it, but the guy who was officially credited with it was Prince, and Wright just could barely get a hand on him. So A&M's had issues when it comes to special teams this year. They've given up kickoff returns for touchdowns. They gave up a punt return for a touchdown against Tennessee. They've had, I want to say, 4 field goals blocked, and their punter can't punt it for 40 yards ever. He's had so many punts in the 20s and the 30s yardage wise. The special teams is just a mess. And so you look at that and you say, well, okay, well, why could that be? And it's just another reminder, A&M does not have a special teams coach. Jimbo Fisher does not believe in having a special teams coach, I guess. And he kind of controls that. Eric Russell also is the special teams analyst, does that. But they don't have an on-the-field coach for special teams, and I think it shows quite a bit sometimes. But anyways, looking forward, A&M's now 5-4. They got 3 games left. Mississippi State, Abilene Christian. You should easily win those games. No one's really going to care about those games unless A&M, looks really bad in them. It's all about the LSU game. The LSU game now, A&M had a terrible season last season, but that LSU win gave them a lot of confidence. It kind of gave them this silver lining of, wow, well, when we can put it all together, this is how it can look. Well, this time, I'm trying to avoid these sprinklers. This time, if they can beat them, if they can get to 8-4, win a bowl game, get to 9 wins, get back in that 9-win sphere, they could say, well, wait, we just had all these injuries and 3 one-score losses. It's still not over. It's still not hopeless. That's kind of the hope. But if you go 7-5 and you lose a bowl game, or, you know, that 8-win range, that's what they had under Kevin Sumlin almost every year after Johnny Manziel, and that didn't cut it. 8-5 is not acceptable at Texas A&M, and it's especially not acceptable when you're paying your coach the salary that A&M does. And so I'm going to go back to it. 5 out of 6 seasons, 4+ losses. That's really bad. And you've seen so many games time and again where it's coaching that's the reason for the loss. Tennessee and Alabama this year was that way. I thought Miami was that way when they just couldn't adjust to that cornerback blitz that they were doing all game. And I mean, game management remains a mess. If Jimbo Fisher does not, you know, waste his timeouts in the first half today, maybe they get another score at the end of the first half. They would have had amazing field position, you know, at the end there. Even if they had just saved one of those timeouts, you're probably talking about getting a field goal there. So I just keep going back to it. 4+ losses, 5 out of 6 seasons. And everyone likes to focus on the game by game, like, well, they did show improvement offensively, and well, if they can beat LSU and win the bowl game, it's like, how do you care about that anymore? 5 out of 6 seasons, it's the same result every time. They invent new ways to get to that result, but it's the same result. And so does it really matter if they lost their quarterback, and, you know, if they didn't get the one transfer that they wanted, or whatever the excuse might be? It's the same result every single year. So you guys can probably tell I'm kind of done with the whole excuse thing. I've already seen some people say today, well, you know, if this happened, and they showed progress. This isn't a time for progress. It's not year 1, it's not year 2, and it's not year 3 or year 6. This isn't a time for progress. This is a time to win 10+ games. You're in an SEC that stinks this year. You're in a down year in the SEC, and you've had so many winnable opportunities, and you've lost every single one of them. And the only teams you've beat have been trash. Auburn and Arkansas are bad football teams. South Carolina is a bad football team. I think they might be losing to Jacksonville State right now. So what has this team done this season to give you confidence that that will change? I don't see it. I'm not going to say they should do this or do that. I'm just telling you the reality of the situation. And the situation looks grim right now for the Aggie football team. They can still recover, but they're going to have to do something that they haven't done in a while. And that LSU game looks more losable by the minute. That's a really dang good football team. They're going to have the best offense that this team faces all season. They might have the best offense in the country. So, guys, I hate to be all doom and gloom here. This is a tough loss. I'm thinking about y'all. I want to hug you guys. I want to console y'all, give y'all a therapy session. But it's time to face the music. It's time to face the reality that the same result is just going to it's going to be a broken record. 5 out of 6 seasons. It's time for the excuses to stop. I'm Carter Karels. Thank y'all for listening. Sorry if I'm being too negative. It's maybe not what you want to hear, but it's what you need to hear. Thanks for listening, guys.